What's up, everybody? KleverKrok back once again with week 1 of the GTA recap thing. Anyways, in this video, we are going to talk about the matches, and we're actually going to watch them one by one and just talk about what we think was done well, what we think, people could have done, or maybe what we think, whatever. We're going to talk about the standings, and we're going to kind of each pick one of our favorite play for the week. And just go through it like that. And we're going to do this each week. We're going to have different coaches come in and out each week as well, so we'll get different perspectives each week as on top of that. So without further ado, I'll introduce my two guests, Fiha, or Fiha, however you want to pronounce that, 444, with all the numbers and good stuff.
Well, you gotta have numbers or it's not any good fun, Brandon.
True. And then Faytl as well.
Hey guys, what's going on?
And I forgot to mention that Fiha 444 is the coach of the Fakemon United, and Faytl is the coach of the Wiltshire Wobbuffets, both taking part in Season 3. So, first we're going to go ahead and take a look at this match. I think was probably my favorite when it comes to just like the way it played out. I was really also looking forward to this match just because of the rivalry and, the skill of both of these guys and how they've demonstrated in the past. And that is the match between the Zoo Batman and the Charmillionaires. I was really curious how this would play out. And so, yeah, we'll just watch it real quick, and I'll put it on fast, and we'll just comment after that. So here we go.
Oh, okay. I had a lot of lag there for a second. It only just caught up.
That's always fun.
Yeah. This bit here was very which team is on which side? I've forgotten for the moment.
The Charmillionaires are coached by Big Dan 24, which is the guy who's at home, or the guy closest to us, and then Justify at 18 is the Because I'm Zoo Batman team. He's the coach of that team.
Yeah, the first couple turns were really rough for the Charmillionaires here, just because of how much stealth rock damage they were taking just over and over again.
Yeah.
Yes, along with Landoris pulling some big hits there, especially with that U-turn, one-hit KO and Greninja.
Yeah. That was just a really unlucky time for a crit right there, and he lost his Uber that he spent so much of his points getting in the initial draft.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the fact that he's already got his Mega Pincer as weak as it is means he's only really got one good hit out of it.
Yeah, pretty much the only way his Pincer could really do much use is if he could bring it in really late in the game after he dealt a lot of damage, so he could just quick attack everything to death.
Yeah, and he's done that before. He's managed to sweep at 2%, getting,
wow.
I think, 4 kills, and that was in Season 2. And coming back from a 1-0 almost a 1-0 loss, but ended up getting not a 1-0 loss, a 3-0 loss to a 1-0 win. And
wow.
That was really impressive. And I knew that he could still do it, but I figured in this case he was going to have a lot harder time considering what he was up against. So.
Yeah, I think he started to get a bit of momentum here, but he really lost a lot of it when he switched Helios out, and I'm not quite sure why he did it. Unless he I suppose he didn't think Surf was going to KO it, which fair enough. But it's a shame he didn't have Focus Blast on, because that probably would have one-shot that Rantrum.
Yeah.
And then that he just lost his Quagsire instantly.
Yep. Yeah, I understood that I think he was going to let the Quagsire go down at that point because he needed a safe switch in. And so he did get a little bit of damage on the Venusaur, but he lost all that when it Giga Drained it back, so it didn't really help all that much. Here, I'm also not really sure in turn 27 when he went for a Rain Dance, when he was...
Yeah, look, at that point it didn't matter. It wouldn't help.
he might have thought that he was going to go for a sucker punch, to be honest, and maybe that was his way of setting up. But like, it wouldn't have made a difference if he was going to spam sucker punch, which he definitely could have done.
Yeah, but I don't even think. I think also pretty much only a Rain Dance boosted Surf would have been able to KO Bisharp unless he was running Focus Blast, which he didn't seem to be.
Yeah. So just before we even like dive into like some more comments about like the actual match and how it played out, I'm looking at these two lineups here. On the Charmeleonaire side, we've got the Greninja, of course, the Mega Pinsir, the Heliolisk, the Mew, the Xatu, and the Quagsire. So I definitely knew he was going to bring Xatu, Mega Pinsir, and Greninja, and probably Mew. The other two are kind of filler depending on what he thought he needed. I was honestly surprised that he brought Quagsire when he knew that Mega Venusaur was coming, like without a shadow of a doubt. So that was
it was probably meant as a Landorus counter, which is a very effective counter toward it.
Yeah, that's definitely true. It definitely like halted Tyrantrum and Landorus, so it worked in that way. But I think how it played out, I think part of it... So actually, let's just go ahead and jump into it. So I think, honestly, they both brought what they wanted to bring team building wise. I think that Justified had to bring Manaphy and had to bring the Togekiss and the Venusaur and either Landorus or Hippowdon. And the other two were just what he thought he needed to kind of round out the team. And I knew that Charmeleonaires were definitely going to bring Mega Pinsir, Mew, and Greninja, and the rest was just what he thought he needed to fill out. And so
why would you not bring a Greninja or Pinsir?
Really well. So it's just kind of how the match played out, I think, is what ended up happening.
Yeah, that crit U-turn was like just really a piece of real bad luck he had there.
Well, actually, I calced it, and even a non-choice band or even max attack Landorus still one-shots a Greninja with U-turn. So I was surprised by, but I was like, okay, so the crit didn't matter. I'm glad because I didn't want it to be the reason that at 88% it does like 88 to 100%. So it would have, one-hit KO'd it no matter what.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, when you watch it, you think, wow, that U-turn made a huge difference in losing Greninja, but it didn't. So that's good. But one thing I noticed is that it seemed like for the most part, even towards the end or the middle of the match, that Justified and his team seemed to have momentum the entire match from the very beginning. And
they did.
That just seemed to really kind of catch, because, Daniel, a.k.a. Big Dan, is a really aggressive player, and he really does well when he gets his momentum going, but if he doesn't get it going, he's kind of in a lot of trouble, and you could kind of tell he didn't really know what to do without any momentum working for him.
Yeah, because he didn't start dishing out damage until he'd already taken a whole lot himself from just the very switching out against both entry hazards and what he was switching in against. So it was basically like he was just starting off on the wrong foot to begin with.
Yeah, I think it was interesting turn one that he went straight for the setup. I think that shows that he's definitely was wanting to start some aggression. However, the problem with that is that when you set up too early and there's still answers for your Pokemon in the match that's not knocked out, it kind of is pointless to set up and risk taking the damage on your sweepers that early. And so I think going for Nasty Plot turn one when Landorus was out and was obviously going to go for Stealth Rocks or a U-turn, that he switched into something that would be so frail and just take the hit or get his Stealth Rocks up like he did. And he ended up getting free Stealth Rocks and a kill on his probably most important sweeper. And he could have switched to Xatu for, Magic Bounce, switching, because he didn't get Rock set up at least for a while, if at all, from my understanding. So he could have switched to Xatu turn one, risk the Earthquake or the U-turn, which Xatu is much more expendable than any of his other Mons. And so he could have switched to that and potentially got the, the bounce and got Rocks up on him and, protected him from getting Rocks, and then could have switched into Quagsire or something and pressured him out. But I think those first like 3 turns were really crucial, and honestly kind of determined the rest of the match.
Yeah, and then later on, it's just he had finally built up momentum and he lost it when he switched out Heliolisk. I think this battle probably would have gone a very different direction if he had brought Heliolisk packing both Focus Blast and Hidden Power Ice, but that does require quite a lot of foresight.
Yeah. And also, one thing I noticed across the board is that both sides didn't really, like, the Thunder Wave was a bit obvious from Xatu, and so it gave him a free switch into Landorus. But also, on the other side, Justified used Scald against Heliolisk, when Heliolisk almost always runs Dry Skin as his ability. And then he also...
and Dry Skin had already shown up as its ability since Rain Dance was activated.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think on Justified's side, one thing he could improve on is in future matches being aware of the abilities of his opponent's Pokemon, because I think he also, which, you know, I talked to him later and he said that he like kind of kicked himself for doing it, but he used a Leech Seed on Xatu, which gave Xatu a free switch in. And so that also was like just another thing that he could have, you know, put pressure on. I think Xatu wouldn't have been able to para him, or at least put any damage on Venusaur before going down. And so I think that was another, like, I think it was just as simple as, like, not being aware of, like, immunities and abilities that were still present on the field before using certain moves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And as far as the abilities go, just for all the coaches out there who are planning on watching this, if you don't know what a Pokemon's possible are, scroll over the Pokemon in battle, and it'll show up all of its possible abilities along with the possibilities of speed.
Mm-hmm.
And you also got, for if you want to check out what moves they got, there's always a good old Cerebi.
Cerebi, and then Smogon, and then there's also Showdown, which everybody uses for Team Builder as well. You can look at all their moves and their abilities and stuff there, and they even have filters if you type status, special, or physical, or a certain type like fire. It'll list all the available moves that Pokemon can learn for that either type of move or, you know, well, like elemental type of that move, or type as in special, physical, or status. So those are things that I would suggest that everybody takes away from these matches, because it definitely isn't just this match that you see that. Which, actually, we'll go ahead and move on to the next one. This is another, I think, a strong example. The match between Faytl and the Wiltshire Wobbuffets and Spider-Man and the Black Ice. So there was some really cool stuff in this match, and I really liked what the Black Ice did here. So we'll go ahead and start it. I'm going to just maybe make a few comments as we go through, but I think one thing here is that I honestly, like, I forgot that Durant learned entrainment, and I thought that was a really cool idea to bring that along with the Doug Trio to trap things that get Truant. That was just, that was so smart, and I was like, man, this is awesome, like, I want it to work out.
Yeah, I thought he had made a really bad mistake here when he left in Durant to get killed off by Victini, but that was actually really smart, because he left in Durant against like the one Pokemon that was most likely to just kill it in one shot, and then he had got a free switch into Dugtrio without me getting a chance to switch out myself. I was stuck.
Yeah, I was really, no offense, it had nothing to do with like I wanted him to win any more than you, but I wanted this set to work because I'm a huge fan of like weird and uncommon sets and even Pokemon for that matter to win, just to like show that like it doesn't matter if you have all 6 OU Pokemon or 6 NU Pokemon. If you bring the right set and know how to play it, you could still win. And I thought this was of that.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking this whole time, like, if this works and sweeps me, I'm not even going to be mad. That's amazing.
Yeah, and you know what else?
It was
Go ahead.
Sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, the only thing that I would say about it is I think he was a bit too eager to use it.
Yeah.
I don't think that starting off with that turn 1 was necessarily the best thing to start with, because if you lose that, you're kind of falling back on the rest of your Pokemon, and you still had priority on the field in Conkeldurr. And so you completely stopped his sweep by being able to bring in a Prankster user and, Conkeldurr. And so between those two, you were able to stop all of his momentum, which otherwise he probably would have swept you, or at least did a ton of damage in the process. And another thing, I'm going to pause right here. I screamed at the screen when I watched this the first time. Guts! Don't do it! I know what you're going to do. Don't use Psycho Shift. No!
In his defense, Conkeldurr usually do run Sheer Force over Guts, but I saw that he had Sigilift drafted, and it's really unfortunate he was against me this week because I play in the Showdown random battle section constantly, and pretty much the best Pokemon in the random battle section is the Sigilift that does exactly that. I've seen it dozens of times, and I know exactly what to watch out for with it. So that's pretty much the only reason that I gave it Guts over Sheer Force.
It is terrifying, and if you don't have something that can absorb burn, it can really be devastating. But I almost always, and this is just my preference, but I almost always run status absorbing abilities on Pokemon, especially when they get damage buffs. But I love Milotic, and the reason that I honestly think Milotic was the one who got MVP Season 1 was because of Marvel Scale. Nobody knew what to do with it, because I would always use it as a switch-in to absorb a Toxic or a Will-O-Wisp or a Thunder Wave, and then it would be almost unkillable. So when I see that Conkeldurr has Guts, and I know that you were going to bring it just because, not before the match, but as soon as I saw that he brought Sigilift and you had Conkeldurr, I knew that you had Guts, and I was just like, don't do it. Just go for Psyshock or go for Psychic. Whatever you brought, just use that.
I think he was building up for Restored Power.
Yeah, he could have been going for that too. The only problem is with that set, if you have a Ghost, you can't really finish with it, and you had Trevenant with you, so.
Well, Air Slash. He's got Air Slash. He probably has Air Slash too.
Oh yeah, that's true. So.
And I want to go back to the bit with the Doug Trio combo you pulled off real quick. I think that he actually probably would have won if it weren't for the fact that we are not allowed to have duplicate items on our Mons, and so I didn't give Klefki and Trevenant both the leftovers. So, I figured the things that are going to be able to hit Klefki the hardest are Earthquakes from Doug Trio and his Mega Kangaskhan, and I can't have two leftovers, so. I just decided to give it Air Balloon kind of on a whim, and it's what saved my ass. Because he couldn't Earthquake me, and his Stone Edge couldn't one-shot me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely a good idea going into the battle, even if it was just on a whim.
Yeah, it ended up working really well for me.
And then this turn hurt me so bad too. Not this one. Not that one. That's
the bit where
this drove me nuts. Every Kangaskhan I've ever known, Mega or not, has Fake Out just for the damage. It's stab and it's free damage, like in every universe. And I don't know why he didn't run it. Maybe he did and forgot to click it. I don't know. But the fact
I don't think he was.
Yeah, since he didn't run Fake Out, if he had ran Fake Out and Earthquake, this game would have been a 1-0 or a 2-0. One of them. I
know he had the Earthquake, and he also had he mentioned that he brought Thunder Punch with him. I think probably I think he was probably expecting Milotic for that.
Okay. Yeah.
Which I just didn't end up bringing at all.
Yeah. So
if he that would make sense.
Yeah. No, I understand that because Milotic is a problem, but I'm still just like, man, if he brought Earthquake and Fake Out and still Thunder Punch and something else, Fake Out would have finished off the conk. Earthquake, I'd calced it one shot to a defensive or just bulky Mega Charizard X, and then Earthquake also has a chance of knocking out the Nidoqueen, but obviously Trevenant would still be a huge problem for him. But still, that would have been a 1-0 or a 2-0 as opposed to a 3-0. So. Yeah,
Trevenant was brought pretty much. It didn't come out in this battle, but Treebeard, my Trevenant, was brought pretty much exclusively for the Kangaskhan, because I knew that there's not much that the Kangaskhan can use to hit Trevenant outside of Sucker Punch, which wouldn't be an issue because I wouldn't be attacking. I'd be Will-O-Wisping and Leech Seeding and just trying to neuter it.
Yeah.
Unless he ran Crunch.
Well, hey, whatever works, right?
Yeah, and I think that it's I still think that the outcome would have been the same. Like, up to this point, had he played this and just run Fake Out and Earthquake, it would have been a 1-0 or a 2-0, but you still would have won. There would have been have to have been some other things that would have changed in order for him to have won. One of the things that I noticed was that half of his team was weak to your two strongest sweepers in Victini and Mega Charizard. And then you also got Fire Punch on Conk, so...
Yeah, he was pretty much fighting an uphill battle from the get-go there because he had drafted a crap ton of grass types to start with.
And then he's also got Durant, which is, quad weak to fire as well.
Yeah, he's also got the Ninjask, which he didn't bring this week.
Yeah. It was interesting. I see why he did use those things, because he was going for some strategies, and had he waited and tried to weaken your team some before doing it, it could have been a different battle. But let's see. The only other thing I noticed is that, like, obviously you prepped really well because you knew what he was going to bring. The only reason I wanted him to win is because he had like some really cool strategies going, and you got everything that you needed to do to like get it done. But one thing maybe I'll encourage you with is to, and maybe this is just situational, in fact I think it usually is to come up with things, strategy-wise that people may not expect, because really when you play like straightforward, and not saying you did like entirely, but when you play straightforward in this, it only works for a couple times, and it only usually works on each person once, and then after that, like, they're gonna know what you'll bring and they'll prepare for that. And so you have to start being creative. And so since you're new to this, like, I know you're a good player and you've demonstrated that this week, I would just encourage you to think about that as you go out to your next matches, especially as the tournament comes later this summer. So.
Oh yeah, I've got some ideas up in the up the old sleeve.
Awesome. Any other thoughts, Isaac?
Well, not really. I mean, y'all about covered it. I mean, it was some really good strategies were pulled out there at the beginning, and then when they came out and broke the momentum of Dud Trio, the match was pretty much over. I mean, it literally shattered his momentum, and he never got it back. So, other than that, I really want to congratulate him, because I did not expect that strategy out of Durant and Dud Trio. I mean, that was a really good strategy. So
I was Skype chatting with him while we were doing that, and when I realized what he did, I just like punched the desk I was sitting at and just said, "What?"
Yeah, well, at first I forgot Dud Trio learned Arena Trap, like Dud Arena Trap, and I was like, why isn't he switching? That doesn't make any sense. But it makes total sense after I remembered, Arena Trap exists.
Yeah.
So
I forgot.
Like, remembering the Arena Trap was when I realized it. I was like, oh, I'll just switch up. Oh no.
yeah, it's such that that's when you remember it.
Right. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next match. The next one is the Kentucky Krookodiles versus the Faytl.
Oh my gosh.
This was hard to watch.
Yeah.
That one was really hard to watch because, and I want to make it a point, everybody, please go home and find out what Magic Bounce does, and know that Mega Sableye has it.
And Espeon.
And please don't use Toxic, don't use any Stealth Rocks or anything.
Don't use your Leech Seeds, don't Spikes.
Yeah, so,
don't use normal type attacks on it.
Yeah. So before we start this,
everything happened.
Yeah, before we start this, I was like determined that like he was going, because he's like played some incredible matches in the past, and I was determined.
He has
prep, and I was like so hardcore prepped for like everything that he could, and I was still like, if he plays this the right way, it's over for me, and blah blah blah, and like I was expecting him to bring Starmie and Deontay. And I
don't know why he didn't. I mean, that was his real big counters for your Mega.
I was so shocked that he didn't bring Deontay, and I was so shocked he didn't bring Starmie, because Starmie handles both my Zapdos and actually handles Krookodile pretty well too. Which this week I was running a...
Handles Talon Flame too if it survives the Brave Bird.
Yeah, so I was really kind of surprised that especially he brought Slacking, because Slacking can't really do much to my team when I have Mega Sableye as, you know, a switch-in. And he's also...
Yeah, like really the only thing that's good against is Chansey. That's really the only thing it's good against.
Yeah, well, I mean, he can also hit pretty hard against, like, my Crocodile, because I was running a Choice Scarf Moxie set, I believe, this week.
Mm-hmm.
So he could have, like, used Retaliate or maybe Hammer Arm and one-shot me, but obviously, like, even with Slacking, like, he can only do one, like, hit one move, and then he's, you know, you give them a free move. So
I love
didn't
not even
understand
bothering
it.
to show the thing to, like, start the replay for this.
Yeah, so we'll go ahead and start it. I'll just tell you what I was thinking. I was like, okay, he started with Espeon. The best I can do is go for a Prankster Calm Mind. If he goes for Dazzling Gleam, it'll do less damage, and I'll be able to recover it up. And then he switched into Slacking, I guess thinking I brought Shadow Ball instead of Dark Pulse, but I did bring Dark Pulse because I knew he had like 2 or 3 normal types. And so I just Calm Mind.
Always good to carry a move that affects every Pokemon, even if it's not always regular effective, because if they do have that one Pokemon, they can bring it in and you won't affect them at all.
Right. So yeah, I was thinking, okay, well, at this point, I can just keep setting up Calm Minds, because the only things that could touch me aren't here, and Aegislash can't hit me hard enough in 2 turns without me Will-O-Wisping it or Dark Pulsing it. So I knew that at this point, like, as long as I didn't play risky, I was, you know, I had the game. But I kept playing safe, and so I just kept going for Calm Minds just to make sure I could one-shot the, at least the Aegislash. I wasn't sure about the Houndoom. But, you know, a couple of the things that I noticed were kind of some elementary mistakes and misplays, is that, like, he was using Focus Blast and normal type moves on my Mega Sableye, on top of the fact that he didn't know what Magic Bounce did. And
I mean, some of those mistakes were basic mistakes that I just didn't understand why he did that.
Yeah, and I was honestly surprised that he did it. I was really confused too, which he explained later that there was some stuff that came up and he didn't have the proper time to prepare. And so I understand that that's probably why things played out the way they did, but I was still kind of shocked. This also kind of surprised me that, well, not that Toxic, but that he ran Gyro Ball on Aegislash instead of Iron Hand, maybe Shadow Sneak.
Gyro Ball is not the greatest move. I mean, there's such a better moveset.
Or Iron
Hand.
Head.
if you got Fortress, okay, but Gyro Ball, otherwise Iron Head's always better.
Yeah.
In almost every case.
Yeah, so I was a bit confused as to, like, his choices in this match. But I understand that I think he was just trying to finish the match because he knew he couldn't, like, prepare in time, and which is fine. You know, it obviously, like, this league and stuff isn't top priority in life, but I wanted to encourage him afterwards to, you know, just make sure that you take at least, even if it's not on the same day, I usually prepare like 3 or 4 days in advance just so I have something, and then I might look at it more or practice beforehand, but at least spend like 10 minutes, and this goes for every coach, spend 10 minutes looking at 3 things. What are your strengths? What are his weaknesses? What are your weaknesses? What is he going to bring as a result of those weaknesses? And what should you bring to exploit not only his weaknesses, but what you think he'll bring to exploit yours?
Yeah.
So,
well said.
I think that's a very good thing, and I think that's something I really messed up during my match this week.
Mm-hmm. So, without further ado, that's what we're about to watch.
Can we not?
I was proud that, well, I was kind of surprised he went for Drain Punch, but he did end up setting up the rocks, which I thought was good.
Yeah, I kind of predicted that drain Punch, which was why I switched into Hoopa, but...
Yeah. And then I don't really know why he went for Poison Jab, because it's resisted by ghosts. But
yeah, I'm not sure, but...
He did. I was glad that he also ran Thunderbolt and Volt Switch, because he was able to pivot out and keep the momentum on you a little bit better. Because here he did go for the Volt Switch so that he could switch out, and even though he didn't know that you were going to switch out, he was able to switch into something that could handle your Blissey.
Yeah, and that did give him a bit of an advantage there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when I noticed that it didn't do enough damage to still one-hit KO me, I left Blissey in for soft-boiled.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so another thing I noticed, and this is something I noticed not only in this match, and this has to do with the Mucks, is I would just encourage, the Mucks as well as other teams to make sure that you know what type matchups are, like, immunities, but also resistances. Poison, being resisted by Ghost is a fairly uncommon thing to know, but you should still be aware of that so you know which moves to run, because damage can end up being the biggest deal. And then also same type attack bonus, but I always call it stab, and that's what you'll usually hear it called, is the idea that when a Pokemon is a certain type, like the Mega Aggron you see on screen right now, he's a Steel type. So any Steel type attack that he uses gets a 50% bonus in its damage, or 50% bonus in its power being used. So like if he has Iron Head and Earthquake still does the damage that it does, but Iron Head does 50% more power than it would otherwise by another type. So I would just encourage coaches out there watching this to consider those things, because it does make a huge difference. It really does.
Yeah. And it does.
I'm surprised you weren't running a Ice Shard on your Cloyster. I think that probably could have made this battle go
and I really wasn't thinking, and I know, looking back on it, that's one of the things I was going to comment. I definitely should have used Ice Shard, because it would have one-hit. But, I mean, that's right there, because Cloyster's pretty fast in itself, and it probably could have took one hit from Absol and got at least some damage in for Blissey to come in and finish it off or something else. But at this point, I mean, I was kind of... And then when Blissey finished off, I didn't have anything left, and...
Yeah.
So I'm going to say 3 things, and then we'll move on since we're running low on time. The first thing is, which you mentioned to me previously, is hazard removal.
Yes, I know. I didn't think he would use hazards. He hasn't in the past, and because of that, I changed up my team that I originally planned a little bit, and I removed my hazard removal. And honestly, I think that was one of the things that really killed me in this match.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that was exactly what decided the match, because who's to say Absol wouldn't have outspeeded them and just finished them all off anyways.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, it really hurt my pride, at least, that I just had to switch in, watch them die as they switched in.
Yeah.
That's brutal.
Especially when I knew I had a counter for that on my team that I just didn't bring.
Also, another really cool thing, which I am really proud of Sal here, aka Lone Wolf, because he's learned so much over the season since we started this thing in Season 1. And I'm glad that he's learning more of some of the just some of the mechanical things part of this, like setting up hazards when it's good against them, or using pivots like U-turn and Volt Switch to keep up momentum and switching out rather than staying in, and type advantages and all that. But one thing I thought was really neat is that, well, I don't know if he knew this or planned for this, but he could have spammed Volt Switch all day and you wouldn't have had an immunity for it. But also, the really cool thing is he didn't run Mega Absol this week. He ran Super Luck Scope Lens Absol, which is why he got all those crits. And that is so cool, because that's the first time in GTA history that anybody's run, their Mega Pokemon as a non-Mega with an item. And I think it worked really well.
Well, it's not the first time, because I remember seeing it first season. Somebody brought it to the tournament. Oh, really? I think it was me, actually, but it didn't turn out well. So this is the first time that it turned out successful.
Okay, well maybe that's...
and let's leave it at that.
Okay.
Yeah, there's one thing I gotta say I did like how you packed the Dragon Claw on Aggron to counter Garchomp. I liked that. That was a good idea.
That was a good move.
One thing I
did, but at the same time, though, looking back on it, I don't know. I just feel like maybe I should have had a better counter for him. or switched out from Aggron to somebody who maybe could have handled him better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I have one
Past is
question.
past,
Now.
and
We'll go ahead and move on to the next
Yep.
What's Chandeler's speed? Like I was just
Not very
surprised he was a
fast.
Trick Room setter.
No,
well, I used him as Trick Room for Aggron, not for himself. So, if you look at any of my battles from last season, I actually used that last season to put Pokemon in the monotype. So,
Okay.
it's an interesting strategy, and I was surprised to find out Chandelure learned it just as much as you all were, but that was my reason for drafting it in the draft. So
Yeah.
one of the things that you'll see in this match that kind of happened in the past 2 matches on either one or both sides is that obviously like stab and type matchups were not necessarily known or planned for or utilized properly. But at the same time, I think abilities and stats could have been used more effectively, at least on the NPCs side, which we'll see see here soon. I think,
Don't help him. He's up against me this week.
I think Hukio did a really good job of prepping, but I'm not sure if the NPCs prepped as much as they could have. They definitely could have utilized their Uber Pokemon and Mega Lucario better, and so just, well, I'll go ahead and start it, but I'll keep talking. I know that he spent a lot of time prepping against the NPCs, and you can tell that like he knew exactly what to do, at least in the first couple turns, and it really, honestly, like completely disarmed the NPCs before they could do anything about it. So, if this is one of the things I was talking about here, is he used Dragon Pulse twice when he could have run Close Combat or something to do twice the damage at the very least, and could have, for all I know, could have one-shot him with the adaptability boost.
And he just left it in to get one-shot by Sacred Fire as well, and he lost one of the most powerful Pokemon in his entire draft pool.
Yeah, and then also, I thought it was cool, but Thunder gets 50% accuracy in Sand, and so I'm not really sure why he ran Thunder on Tyranitar. I mean, I get it because he wanted to get coverage, but it was a really risky thing to put on his set,
Yeah, and in general, Flamethrower, which I think
he was kind of lucky
dead.
that hit.
Yeah, both times.
Yeah, like I'm just puzzled why he just didn't run Flamethrower instead, because that would have given him more coverage options against like Mamoswine and against Breloom, stuff like that. Does he have a?
Yeah.
Does his opponent have other stuff that's weak to Thunder that I'm not aware of? That I'm just not recalling.
I don't know off the top of my head, but I do think it was cool that he knew that he was going to switch out, and he took the chance to set up Stealth Rocks on turn 7. And then also, I'm not sure why he didn't run Bullet Punch if he was going to run Power Up Punch on Metagross, because you really need the priority, and he could have gotten a lot more damage on Mamoswine without, well, and even if he lost Mamoswine, he could have switched into something else to hit it before, taking more damage, But at this point, Breloom kind of had control of the match, and he couldn't do anything about it. So
Yeah, oh, that Bullet Seed is just murder. Jesus Christ.
it was rough. And then he's got Mach Punch to one-shot the Tyranitar, and then he's got Bullet Seed again for the Rotom.
Yeah, something I was really surprised about is that he just, like, back earlier when Lucario went down, why he didn't just swap in Rotom to take the Sacred Fire? Because Rotom Wash can take Sacred Fires all day.
Yeah, and I don't think that the Alakazams would have switched into Mamo to take the potential Volt Switch when Hydro Pump was a more likely choice, but he could have pivoted with Volt Switch to switch into something better to handle the Mamoswine at that point, or just stayed in and used Hydro Pump. It really wasn't a beneficial switch into Mamoswine, so had he done what you were saying, he would have had a lot more momentum and kind of stopped Hukio in his tracks.
Yeah.
So there's just a couple things that I think that it was just preparation, like he didn't really think about. And I think, again, I would really reinforce just like knowing abilities and type matchups and bringing, moves that have the stab bonus, especially if it can hit super effective on a couple of your opponent's Pokemon. I just think that's crucial in the victory in the end. But last match, we've got the Rykos versus the Gengars. Rykos coached by Jasperius, and the Gengars coached by Mask47. And this match was, I think, okay overall. As you'll see here, music's off. Okay, good. As you'll see here, the first couple, turns were actually fairly even, and I think both sides made some good plays. Like taunt on the Gorbis, that was really smart because Shell Smash Baton Pass is a thing.
Yeah, he was very brave to leave it in against the Gorbis, because if that thing had ice beamed into the skull, that would have been a one dead Gliscor right there.
Yeah, and so like even now with the burn, he knew to go for I think a Volt Switch. Yeah, so to get out of there, because he knew at that point Raikou was not going to be able to, or like was going to be too much of a threat. Now here, I do wonder if Stealth Rocks was the better play, because he could have gone for an Earthquake, but then he could have just switched in Blaziken. So I think maybe he going with the Stealth Rocks was a decent play.
Yeah.
One last thing that I also noticed in this match, because I didn't really see too much else in this, because at this point it's still a fairly even match. I just also kind of noticed that in general, like when you have a Pokemon that's really important in winning the victory, you don't let it go down early. You just don't. And I think the fact that Mega Slowbro hadn't even been switched into yet, and he had already taken so much damage on his Electros, which was really his only answer to it. I think that was just a really strong example of the fact that he just didn't know what to preserve in order to win. And once Blaziken came in, it was the end, of course. So.
Oh yeah. I mean, Blaziken did some boss work out there.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, he got swept, basically, and Mega Slowbro, again, he just came in to pick up the last kill here, which you'll see in a minute. But, like I said, he also maybe should have run a Choice Scarf Golurk, because that could have put in some work. But I'm not sure that it would have mattered at this point, with it already have taken damage earlier. But I don't think that he would have taken the damage from Raikou if he was a Choice Scarf variant. So
I'm just puzzled why he felt the need to taunt Blaziken, because at that point, it's got several speed boosts up. He's not going to bother with non-attacking moves.
And I doubt he had any. I'm sure he had all coverage at that point.
Yeah, like pretty much the only thing I can think that it would run is like that aren't attacking moves are like Protect, just to ensure it gets one speed boost, and maybe Swords Dance, which is just overkill since he's got the Life Orb anyway.
But really. So, as you see here, this match ends with Slowbro coming in and hitting it. Obviously, Gliscor can't do anything to Mega Slowbro, especially with its Shell Armor ability. No crits means no funny business. So, those are the end of those matches. So, do y'all have any more comments about the matches overall? Before we look at team rankings?
I don't really have any comments over the matches overall.
Pretty solid first week, I thought, with a couple of missteps and all, which is I think just people getting adjusted to the start of the season. Like everyone's working with some Pokemon they've never used before, fighting against people who have also used Pokemon they've never used before. So everyone's still trying to, I think, find their feet in this first week a little bit.
Yeah, I can understand that, and I think I agree. I think people are trying to figure out what they do, and also, fun fact, the past 2 seasons, the Charmeleonaires have lost their first week, and then won the championship later on with almost a perfect record. So, just because
they typically bounce back well.
Yeah, so I'm expecting more out of you, Daniel. But anyways, let's take a look at the leaderboard this week. So we've got the Krookodiles with a 1-0 and +6 differential, the Apparitions with a 1-0 and +5 differential, and then tied for third we have the Richmond Raikous, the Wiltshire Wobbuffets, and the Because I'm Zubatman, with a 1-0 win-loss ratio and a +3 differential. And then we've got Minnesota Mucks with a 1-0 win-loss ratio and a +2 differential. And then Fakemon United with the 0-1 differential, or 0-1 win-loss ratio and a -2 differential. The Charmillionaires and the Gengars and the Black Ice all tied at 1 loss and a -3 differential. And then the NPCs at -5 differential and at a loss. And then Faytl at 1 loss with a -6 differential. And here are the divisions, which, as a reminder for those watching and specifically the coaches, the way the divisions are important is they determine not only qualification but the seeds for the tournament, which there's a typo there, so ignore that. But the top 2 of each division are who qualify for the tournament. So it doesn't necessarily mean that, like, just if you have a really good record, then you'll get in. It first is if you're one of the first 2 teams in your division, then you qualify, and then the seed is determined based on kind of like if you're first, then out of the 4 first place teams in their division, it's by record and differential, and then the 5th through 8th seeds are the teams who got second in their division, and then determined by differential or win-loss and differential. So this is something just to keep in mind. That's why differential is important, is it can determine a lot of things for the tournament later on.
Yeah.
So if you keep winning 6-0,
that one because.
Yes. So next we've got the player leaderboard, and we've got Mega Sableye from the Krookodiles with a 6-0. And then we've got Blaziken from the Rykos with a 4-1. That's 4 knockouts and 1 feint, or 4 kills, 1 death. Conkeldurr from the Wobbuffets with 4 kills and 1 death. Bishop from the Zubatman with 3 kills and 0 deaths. Breloom from the Alakazams with 3 kills and 0 deaths. Seismitoad from the Mucks with 3 kills and 1 death. Surprisingly, all from the grave from Stealth Rocks.
Yeah, I know that's weird.
And then Mega Absol in its non-mega form picked up 2 kills this week for putting it in 7th on the leaderboard with 2 kills and 0 deaths. And then Mega Aggron at 2 kills and 1 death, Heliolisk 2 kills and 1 death, and Golurk 2 kills and 1 death. So pretty good spread so far. I think we could say, like you were saying, Hamilton, that this week I think has been a good week in general, considering people are still figuring out what works in their team as well as what other people will be doing. But I also think that it's a good opportunity to learn before it gets too far into the season and prepare better for future weeks. So.
Agreed.
Any
there.
final comments, guys?
excited to just go through the rest of the season.
Awesome.
Sounds like a plan.
Well, thank you guys for coming out and helping me do this and
My pleasure.
talking about the different matches. And honestly, I'm really proud of everybody. For the most part, like what they did this week, and I'm excited to see what they'll do in the future with what they can learn from their wins and losses. And thank you guys for watching, and we will see you all next week. Thanks for watching, guys. If y'all enjoyed the video, go ahead and leave a like, and if you want, subscribe for more videos. Hope to see y'all in the future, and thank you for watching.